Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Thank you so much for being part of our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast. Our guests today are Parveen K and Tammy Co. They're here to celebrate Diego the Dodo in the island race. Before we invite Tammy and Parveen into the studio, we want to let you know that we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read, My Monster Truck Goes Everywhere with Me by Kathleen Marquette. Have you ever thought about introducing a second language to your child? Is your little one a fan of monster trucks? If your answer is yes, then our latest certified great read, My Monster Truck Goes Everywhere with Me, is what you need. The book is illustrated by Isaac Liang, an American Sign Language for all the little boys and girls that love monster trucks. The book follows the story of a young boy named Dylan who is obsessed with this shiny purple monster truck for kids. It's no ordinary truck. It's a mud-splashing, wheel-spinning, engine-roaring, and a lightning-fast monster truck.
Company.
Research shows that American Sign Language is quickly becoming a recognized second language in many states, and sign language can benefit your early learner tremendously. There are so many positive effects that learning American Sign Language can have on a child's brain. Starting to learn a new language can be so much fun, too. And books are a great place to start. Just point to a sign on each page of this adorably illustrated book. Say the word while making the sign, and your kid will soon be signing. A perfect book for little hands and minds to grasp. This is the first time we have read Kathleen Marquette's work. What a delightful surprise. Her book, My Monster Truck Goes Everywhere with Me, has great illustrations, weaves a great story, and is a souped-up vehicle for parents and grandparents to share with the kids they love. To read our entire review, be sure to check out readingwithyourkids.com and click on our blog. To find out more about our Certified Great Read program, please visit certifiedgreatread.com. Joining us right now from one of the most diverse and fascinating cities in the world, Toronto and Ontario, Canada. Our guests today were part of our beautiful Reading in the New Year celebration. We're really excited to have them. They're here celebrating Diego the Dodo in the island race. Please welcome to the show Parveen K and Tammy Co. Parveen, Tammy, welcome to the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
That first voice you heard was Parveen, and Parveen, you were the author of Diego the Dodo. Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. So Tammy and myself, we co-authored and co-illustrated the book together.
Wonderful. Before we start talking about the book, how did you two become a team?
So we're actually colleagues. I'll let Tammy cover that part.
Yeah, we're actually colleagues. I think Parveen actually approached me to kind of, embark on this adventure, and we worked together. We worked together very well, and
I'm excited to bring Diego to life book, and he has been on my mind, I would say, for many, many years. So this is kind of, I would say, like a little bit of my inspiration and the reason why we decided to collaborate to work on this book together.
Well, since the inspiration originally came from you, Parveen, can you tell us a little bit about Diego the Dodo?
Absolutely. So when we set out to write this story, it, as I said, it really stemmed from the character of the bird, the dodo bird. Also, like mentioned in books that kids have read before, like Alice in Wonderland. And the dodo that disappeared so quickly off, I would say, the face of the earth some 300 years ago. The dodo lived on the island of Mauritius, and as I said before, it's kind of like located on the east side of Madagascar. And yes, I was born in Mauritius, born and raised in Mauritius, this beautiful volcanic island, blue lagoons, fringed beaches, and coral reefs surrounded most of the coastline. So that was kind of my inspiration growing up. And this is being part of my culture, learning about the dodo bird. The island is also known as a plural society where all the ethnic groups live in peace and where all the ancestral cultures have been preserved. So these features make the island a unique place in the world. And the people are known for their tolerance and kindness towards all. So that through the character, the dodo, we try to replicate and bring that angle through the story. It's known that it's a distant family member of the Asian pigeon. So we try to describe that bird through the story. The physical attributes of the bird, 1 meter tall, that weighed about 20 kilos, lived on the island. And it's a bird that evolved and adapted to its environment on this island. So we try to bring a lot of those characteristics in the stories. The bird was bulky, slow, with short wings that prevented it from flying, but very trusting, lack of fear, secondary flightless bird, I would say, that we depict in the book as tiny wings and clumsy feet to adapt to our audience. So like bringing that character together, but also focusing on the angle of tolerance, diversity, and being part of something. That was really the source of inspiration, starting from the main character in the story.
Wow, what a neat idea. You know, growing up here in the United States, you know, and I'm almost 100 years old, so I've been hearing this, you know, what a great melting pot the United States is, and that we're unique. It's really unique. There's like really nowhere else in the world that this is happening. And thankfully, I'm growing up and I'm learning that that was wrong. Because, I mean, it's happening here. It's not happening as well right now as we would like it to be. But there are places all over the world where different ethnicities have been coming together and learning to live together and work cooperatively. And at least in terms of Mauritius, it sounds like they're doing it better than at least we're doing it here in the States right now.
You know, like interesting enough, like there's so much to see and I've traveled quite a bit. Like one of the things, like moving, like when I moved to Canada, a few years ago, like I fell in love with the place because I experienced a similar culture when I moved here to Canada, like the same, warm welcome, the same, approach, one group and the sense of belonging. I think, I felt really at home and, a lot of the values that I grew up, experiencing and sharing, I went through the same experience moving to Canada and I fell in love with Canada.
Yeah. Tammy, what was it like for you when you met the dodo and you started to learn about the dodo and how Parveen had this idea to kind of use the dodo to tell the story of just cooperation and people celebrating each other's abilities and differences?
Yeah, so really it started from there. Parveen mentioned, you know, it all came from this character, this dodo bird, and she had the name Diego from a long time ago. And so it really started from, you know, what is this bird? What is he like? What are his characteristics? And from there, the ideas, they just started flowing. And I think the theme and the plot came pretty easily for us right after because we knew we had to tell a story about, embracing who you are and why it's important to celebrate diversity and inclusion. And I think, you know, we're both first time, minority authors and illustrators. So this book is actually incredibly meaningful to us. And especially for me, growing up in an Asian household, when you're talking about the melting pot and upholding your culture. So my family has taught me, a lot about the importance of embracing my culture, being proud of who I am and why it's important to work hard and to persevere. And big kudos to my parents for really, raising us that way to keep our identity. So when I communicate with my parents ever since we were young, it's always in Chinese because they don't want me to lose that language. And, at the same time, I remember as a child, I used to have conversations with my late grandfather, and he would say things like, you're different. You're Chinese. This is your skin color. This is your hair color. So we don't have to be like the others, and you don't have to change yourself, right? No matter what this is who you are. So he's really instilled that sense of pride and really drilled this in, because growing up for me in a predominantly white neighborhood, it can be tough for a kid. Mm-hmm. So like Diego, we try to fit in by trying to be like the others. But I think once you realize your own power, it's a game changer. So having that sense of pride, confidence, once you realize that, really just like Diego in the story, nothing could stop him. So especially in today's climate, we feel it's incredibly important to tell stories like this regarding diversity, inclusion, and in general, we may have our differences, but our differences is what makes the world a better place. So we learn so much from each other. That allows us to thrive together as a whole. Yeah. So that's one of the main themes that inspired the plot of the story.
Tammy, as you were speaking, I had a friend in second grade, one of my best friends, his name was Chen, and his family was originally from China. And I remember going over to his house, and his house, the only way I can describe it was very Chinese. I mean, there was, the furniture was Chinese and Asian, and there were lanterns and lots of red curtains. And unlike, I think, maybe a lot of my friends, I thought it was the coolest place in the world. And I loved it. I just loved being with people who were different, because it was just you could just learn so much. A lot of my friends, you go over to the house and it's just like you're in your own house. It's, the same furniture and the same curtains and the same food. But if you go over to somebody else's house who's from a different culture, you go in and you're learning new things. You're hearing a new language. I always found that fascinating. And unfortunately, I think my friend Sandy was a little bit embarrassed at first, because he's like, like you were saying, I want to fit in. And I was like, dude, don't fit in. You're cool. Your family's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, if we could just continue that message and just, keep telling people, like, whatever your background, whatever your culture, that's who you are, and it's something to be celebrated, not something to be ashamed of. So the more conversations we can have around that, the more awareness we can bring around that, I think the more we're able to just live peacefully together.
Yeah. Parveen.
And also,
go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and also to add to that, like we bring other animals to the story, other animals that we thought about would bring a good diversity and a unique experience to kids as well. So we introduced exotic animals like Gina the gazelle from Africa, or Leo the lemur from Madagascar, Kai the Komodo dragon from Indonesia. There's also a giant tortoise from the Galapagos Islands and a hummingbird from South America, just to create that diversity and putting together and presenting a story that we believe would make it very interesting and a joy to read for kids.
Yeah. I want to go back. You were telling us a little bit about your home island, Parveen, and why do you think it is that this relatively small island in the middle of the ocean, you were saying it's a volcanic island, so I'm imagining that most of it is, folks are living around this volcano, and I visited my first volcano last year. It was like amazing. Why do you think that the folks there were able to come together and learn how to live in harmony with this respect and cooperation?
I mean, when I grew up on the island, it was always part of the culture, and that was just the way it was. It was the norm, and that diversity and togetherness, that's what made it and still makes it so unique and different. Like, I did not experience anything different growing up, so it was kind of like the norm, and everybody embraced it without questioning it, I guess.
Yeah. I'm curious now, Tammy, the dodo became extinct, as Parveen said, 300 or so years ago. Do you touch on that at all in the book and, maybe talk to kids about, protecting endangered species?
Yeah, so, when we picked those animals, we actually kept that in mind. We wanted to pick animals that were different and interesting, and also some of them are endangered. So in the book, we actually have some fun pages near the end that explain a lot more about the animals, where they're from, what they like to do, what their characteristics are like. So we wanted something that also sparked that conversation to talk about it. The book itself doesn't address the extinction of the dodo. We thought maybe that could be, maybe a little bit too sad, or maybe that's, I think Parveen had a good example when she kind of talked, and then, he went off on some different topics. But, for us, it was, setting the scene that, this is a plot with different animals where they could live peacefully together. Some animals are definitely endangered. And if they so find out that, the dodo bird is extinct, I think that would be a great conversation to continue. Like, well, why did he go extinct? What happened? What does it mean to be an endangered species? And what can we do to protect them so they don't become like the extinct dodo bird?
And I think these do turn into great conversation topics for many. Like my son's favorite characters in the book would be Diego the dodo and Kai the Komodo dragon in Indonesia. And after reading the book a couple of times, we had fun actually researching both animals, and he was actually surprised that the dodo is extinct, like the dinosaur. That was his analogy. But then we did some further research and found out that about over 40-50% of the world's species are estimated to be at risk. And there are so many resources available out there to talk about the topic with kids. An example would be like 1 in 4 mammals are endangered today. So it was just so interesting to me talking about the Earth biodiversity with a 7-year-old. Like, of course, we started with like 4-legged creatures to no-legged creatures and what that means, and started with extinction of species to maybe ending with time travel, where he was asking me if we were to travel back in time, would we get the opportunity to meet some of the species like Diego and the dinosaurs? So definitely great topics of conversation after reading the story with kids.
I love that. What you kind of beat me to it. One of the things we often ask authors is what kind of conversations can families have? And I love books that just offer families lots of different avenues to kind of talk about. Diego the Dodo, you're talking about diversity, talking about cooperation, about coming together, celebrating our differences, about evolution and extinction and the ecology and how we can protect that. I really, really love that. One of the other things we love encouraging our families to do, especially parents, there are a lot of parents out there who don't feel confident. They aren't great readers, and they don't feel confident that they can read, and a lot of parents can't read. But I think, especially with a book like Diego the Dodo, they can still experience some wonderful time together because there's lots of great illustrations, and we encourage families, no matter what level of reading our parent is at, to take picture walks through books, oftentimes before you start reading the text, just kind of going through the story and talking about what they think the pictures are telling. Tammy, can you talk a little bit about what kind of things you imagine families might be talking about if they take that picture walk together?
We actually, so off to the side, we do offer free virtual readings, and we've done this with classrooms, with different kids, and that's actually something that we do before we read the story. So, we'll go through some of the pictures. We'll tell them, well, what are you seeing? What is this? What kind of animal is this? So it's a way to really familiarize them with the characters, with the setting of the story. And that increases their understanding of what's to come when we do sort of go through page by page. And I think when we do that, it's, kids will be like, they'll just volunteer and be like, I like that character, or maybe we'll be like, well, what other characters do you like? Or, why do you like it? And they'll be like, well, because it's orange and that's my favorite color or something. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to interact with the kids, to get to know them, before we even dive into the story. So I would say, yeah, the picture walking thing is an amazing idea. And I think that's something that a lot more of us could be doing if we're not as comfortable reading. And I think, with the book being more colorful, lots of different animals, a fun, interesting plot that you can tell through the pages, even if it would just be a fun time regardless of what you do, I think.
Yeah. And the pictures are, you mentioned the colors, they are really vibrant and really colorful. But there's also a lot going on just on the front cover art. There's, you can take a look at it and really kind of study it and find animals hiding in different places and seeing different things that you might not see if you're living in Toronto or New York City or Boston. And so that's really a lot of fun. Parveen, I'm wondering, this has been, it sounds like such a wonderful collaboration. Have you both caught the children's writing bug? Will we see more books in the Diego the Dodo series?
Absolutely. I think it's very contagious for sure. And Tammy and myself, it's been a great learning experience. And I think most of the joy for me is really sharing those stories with kids through the virtual reading and just getting feedback, and kids really do take you to a different world, a different place with a lot of creativity. So it's definitely on. So we're actually working on book 2, and a topic that's very important to me. And I think as a parent, it's a very important topic for parents out there too. And for good reason. It's around bullying. Mm-hmm. And one of the stats, as we're going through the research and gathering more information at this point, according to the National Institute of Mental Health in the United States, in any 6-week period, 1/3 of children report being bullied, and it's on the rise. So this is on awareness at an early age, and on values like empathy, forgiving, and helping others that we try to bring through the next one that we're working on right now. So readers and followers will keep them posted on our social media, on our website for regular updates, because we wanted to be able to take them through the experience of creating the next adventure of Diego the Dodo and his friends.
That's really exciting. Our connection kind of froze a minute when you were sharing that stat. The issue of bullying is huge, and it's been something that I've been presenting on in schools since 2003. My Educational Magic Show has really been focused on bullying, and as you said, the statistics are frightening. One of the statistics that I've seen is that on any given day, there are as many as 160,000 kids who stay home from school because they're afraid. They pretend to be sick. They ask their mom, whatever it is, but they find a reason to stay home because they're afraid to go to school. And that's a crime. It shouldn't be happening anywhere. So I'm really happy that you're addressing that. Tammy, one last question for you. I noticed that the book is available in English and in French. You were sharing with us earlier on how important it was for you and your parents that you continue to speak Chinese. I don't know if it was Mandarin Chinese, but are you thinking about translating Diego the Dodo into Chinese?
Yeah, we would love to translate it into more languages, not only Chinese. We started with French because Canada is bilingual, and Parveen actually she speaks fluent French, so that was a natural way to go about it. But yeah, that's definitely in the works. We're looking to translate it into Chinese, into Spanish, into more languages. Hopefully, more versions of this book in the near future, for sure.
Wonderful. Well, I know people are going to want to know where to go to find out more about Diego the Dodo and more about both of you. Parveen, where can we find you online?
Our website is always a great resource. We always make sure that there are a lot of fun activities on the site. So it's diegothedodo.com, the same name on Facebook as well as Instagram. So it's Diego the Dodo.
Wonderful. We've had a great time speaking to the authors and illustrators of Diego the Dodo and the Island Race, Parveen K and Tammy Co. My friends, thank you so much for being part of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We have two great authors joining us. Wendra Lynn will be here along with Patty Donnelly. That's the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. You heard earlier in the show that we have a brand new Reading with Your Kids certified great read, My Monster Truck Goes Everywhere with Me by Kathleen McCath. If you are the author of a great children's book, you may be frustrated by how difficult it is to get families to notice your book. Do you know that there are literally thousands of books published every single month? Every single one of those books are fighting for the attention of families. Well, the Certified Great Read program can let families know that your book is worthy of their consideration to add to their family library. Check out the program today. Go to readingwithyourkids.com, click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page, scroll on down to Certified Great Reads, or you can go directly to certifiedgreatread.com. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, want to thank our guests, Parveen K and Tammy Co. Be sure to check out Diego the Dodo. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Justina Thompson, Helen Fraser. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to join together and thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.